What's going on, everybody? It's David here again, talking CU Buffs football, Coach Prime Deion Sanders, and everything in between. So again, thank you so much for checking out my channel. Today, we're going to talk about 5 ideas to save the Pac-12 in the midst of these media negotiations and conference realignment. So before I get started, just want to say thank you again for all the consistent and growing support that my channel has had over the last couple weeks. We're on our way to 1,000, and you don't want to be left out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That's really going to help me push content to other Buffs fans, Coach Prime fans, and leave a comment. What do you think about these ideas? Okay, let's get started. So I'm sure many of you know that the Pac-12 media negotiations have been quite chaotic over the past year, especially with USC and UCLA leaving. So where does the conference go from here? Now, before I get into these 5 ideas, I want to preface this by saying I think the Pac-12's focus should be on competing, of course, with the ACC and Big-12. And if you can get yourself to the top tier in that group of Power 5 football, I think you put yourself in very strong position for the future of college football. You know, right now it's pretty clear that the Big-10 and SEC are in levels of their own, and it's important to kind of, I think right now, realistically, strive to be that next best. So let's get into it. Number 1, this is one that's talked about a lot, is going all in on streaming. And some of the positives for this, again, how is the world going to consume media in 5 years? I think it's going to be a lot different with how quickly we see media consumption changing in our culture. The big trade-off with this, of course, is the availabilities and ease of watching certain games is going to be difficult. Now, of course, people talk about households. You know, for instance, Amazon Prime is wanting the premier game from the Pac-12 every week. That can be hard for certain individuals in their households to find. I'm not too worried about that. What I am more concerned about is making sure that bars and restaurants have access to showcase these games. So I think in an instance where Amazon Prime takes over kind of the main premier game of the Pac-12 every week, there definitely needs to be an activation campaign or strategy to making, if you're giving out free Fire Sticks to all these bars and restaurants, there needs to be some sort of program to provide incentive or ease for public viewing of these games. Now, ESPN is reportedly going to be covering kind of the tier 3 games. So where does that leave us for tier 2? YouTubeTV, I think, could make a lot of sense. Now, of course, Prime and YouTubeTV are rivals in a sense, but you see that with all the media deals. All the media companies are a part of these other conferences to some level. So again, what are some advantages of YouTube TV? Again, when you're not going to have the cable package where people can just click the remote and find you, you got to be looking at exposure a little bit differently in a more holistic way. And so, of course, YouTube, as many of you probably feel the same as me, YouTube's where I get a lot of my news and media to begin with, and I think that it's going to be a growing platform, of course, going into the future. Now, one other advantage that comes with YouTube TV is the fact that if you're playing games on YouTube TV, you are partnering with the people who run the YouTube algorithms, and so that means, of course, the games are going to be promoted. They're going to be easy to access there when you're visiting YouTube. Again, YouTube probably has the best video playing app right now available on the mobile market, which is better than ESPN Plus, Fox, NBC, a lot of these other streaming cable company apps. They're very finicky. You're not going to have that issue with YouTube. And also, content creators and other sports shows such as, let's say, Barstool, they're going to be incentivized to talk about Pac-12 football on YouTube because the algorithm is going to promote that type of content throughout the week. So again, I think that could be a very interesting avenue for the Pac-12 to take. Now, of course, when it comes to going all in for streaming, there's a trade-off. There's a lot more risk involved. We don't really know how this is going to play out. And so is the reason Turner and CBS and some of these other companies have now withdrawn from negotiations. Is it because these streaming platforms are willing to pay a premium for this? Because again, there's a cost to everything. If I'm one of these universities, okay, I'm willing to take the risk of partnering with you as my main television partners. However, we're going to need more money in order to be okay taking that risk. So that's number one, go all in on streaming. Number two, this is kind of an interesting one outside the box, a partnership with the NFL. Right now, the NFL doesn't have a partnership with any college conference in this manner. And so what would this look like? Partnering with NFL Network and NFL Plus. I know NFL Network is already readily available on most cable and satellite TV packages. I know they have more than the Big-10 network, for instance. And so maybe you could see a partnership happen with Amazon where they're still having that number one game and then partnering with the NFL for those tier 2 games. So it would be really cool to see something similar to what you've seen with Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus. Maybe there's a package that can come about with Prime, NFL Plus, NFL Network, if you get them all in a bundle. Again, the Pac-12 is going to get a lot more promotion on Sundays with the NFL promoting, hey, don't forget about these Pac-12 games coming up the next week. And I think at the end of the day, what's really cool about this option is that it provides the Pac-12 with some brand stability. Again, partnership with the NFL, that can only be a positive. And so I would love to see this as an option. Again, I haven't seen this reported, but I think it's an outside of the box idea that could be beneficial for a conference that's really has to differentiate themselves in order to survive into the near future. All right, number 3, an uneven revenue split. The Pac-10 used to do this back in the 2000s. It's been reported that USC was making some of the most money in the whole country because of the Pac-10 revenue split, and by the fact that it was more earn or keep what you earn. So this could be interesting because right now, from my understanding, all the other conferences have an even revenue split. And you wonder, with the growth of conferences expanding, if there's not going to become some frustration with other schools and markets really not holding their weight. And I also think with Oregon and Washington, Stanford, kind of them all being the top ones in control of the Pac-12 conference right now, I think it would be advantageous to keeping them by providing them with uneven revenue split. Now, I do think this would be advantageous for CU as well. I like it, but again, all this comes from the idea of we need to be doing something different as a conference from the rest of the Power 4 conferences. And you wonder, okay, say you're a school in the ACC where the TV money, it's not really any different from the Big-12. I don't expect it to be right now much different than the Pac-12 as well. If it's an even revenue split, how can we provide incentive for the future? And this could be one way. All right, let's get into idea number 4, and that is a partnership or merger with the ACC. Again, this isn't something that can happen overnight. This is going to have to be something that happens in probably maybe 7 years at the earliest. But again, I think there's a lot of advantages for the coastal conferences to be partnering with each other in terms of exposure, brand notoriety, all of that. And if SMU actually does join the Pac-12, then you cover the middle part of the country that's most important, which is Texas and the Dallas market. And so I think it makes sense for both conferences. Again, a lot of the schools and the programs involved in both of these conferences, they're aligned not only athletically but also academically, and I think it could be pretty interesting if we're wanting as both conferences to kind of get to that next level of college football, TV money, conferences, all that. Okay, idea number 5, to save the Pac-12. But before I get started, make sure you give me a like and a comment. How would you save the Pac-12? What are your thoughts on conference realignment? Okay, this is definitely my most outside the box and wishful thinking idea. Number 5, you sell your soul as a conference to Notre Dame. Yes, definitely wishful thinking, but just hear me out. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, and that's definitely the case here with Notre Dame. Again, I think that they could have joined the Big-12 or the Big-10 quite a while ago, but there is a lot of hatred between certain institutions and Notre Dame in the Big-10, and I think obviously right now, if Notre Dame were to join a conference, I definitely think the ACC has the upper hand on that for obvious reasons. However, okay, right now their TV deal is $25 million. You can come make $25 million right now with the Pac-12. I'm just playing, but I think that they obviously would be a huge brand increaser for the Pac-12. I know right now they're seeking $75 million alone from their next independent TV deal with NBC. We'll see if that happens. You know, maybe partnership with the Pac-12 eventually could make that number happen for them if it can't happen by themselves. And again, ego is the only thing that's bigger than money in college sports. So, again, this is a total shot in the dark. I know this is wishful thinking and crazy, but if the Pac-12 were to incentivize Notre Dame, hey, come over here. We have an uneven revenue split. You'll be able to earn an uncapped amount of money by partnering with us. You know, maybe it works out. I don't think Notre Dame wants to feel like they need the Big-10. And so I think that's why you've seen, again, in the past, you know, their partnerships with the ACC and football and all that. So, again, thank you for checking out my video. This is a lot of fun, especially as a business alum from the University of Colorado. It's a lot of fun. Again, would appreciate your support. Help me get to 1,000. I'll be back with some more videos soon. Sco Buffs.